welcome back. Today is Monday, January the 13th. This is the online virtual class of the WDDM Digital Drawing and Digital Imaging course, or class, I should say. And I want to welcome everybody. We did in-person session on Wednesday because we missed the previous Monday because of the way the semester started over the holidays. So technically, this is the first lesson on the Monday virtual session that we're going to have going forward. The purpose of having an in-person meet on Wednesday is so I can help you do like a one-on-one, maybe do like a hands-on instructional or demonstration segments of the material that we're going to be covering. And it's good to have the person-to-person engagement with the students. So I do like the amalgamation of both aspects, which is the virtual part and the in-person part. And let's get started. All right, so I'm going to share my camera now, and we're going to go over all the particulars, and I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions with the software, as I did notice the link that I mentioned to you earlier is no longer working for this year. And there's a good and bad in that, and I'll go over those things as well. All right, so let's get started, and let me know if you can share my screen, if you can see my screen as I share my screen. So this is the digital illustration and imaging segment course on Blackboard. Basically, all the tools that you need are going to be happening with this portal, just like your other classes as well, which means handing in assignments, projects, participating in these video lectures and stuff. Everything can be accessed through Blackboard. Of course, you know how to get to Blackboard, and you obviously know how to click on this link because this is how you joined my classroom via Teams. Teams is the way we conduct our class sessions or virtual classrooms. We used to use Panepto before. I think Teams does a better job, and most educational institutions use the Microsoft products now, as I see Teams more and more throughout the industry. All right, so this is how I'm going to record my lectures using Teams. I prefer to use the app instead of the browser. So if you do have the Teams app or you haven't installed it yet, I suggest you do that because it's better in terms of controlling some of the visual and screen share capabilities. As sometimes you will have to share your screen as I answer questions. I'm going to switch to a student view right now so I can see exactly what you see on the Blackboard. As I covered most of this stuff on Wednesday in person, I noticed the screen did not record. And I don't mind going over some of the important things again. Anyways, I will do that today as well. So if you did miss Wednesday's class, don't worry. Today will be a good recap and more of what we're going to be covering here. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the link for the virtual class. You all clicked here in order to get to this virtual classroom setting. This is my bio. If you haven't met me before, my name is Milorad Eftosky again. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I've been in industry for almost 30 or 25 to be exact. But if you count my earlier years, I've always been inspired by the creative industry. Not only in teaching, I do lots of stuff with the business end of marketing and advertising, and I help various companies reach their marketing potentials. To get a hold of me, the best way is to email me at miloradeftoski@humber.ca. However, I put a note here. I prefer that you contact me within this course set using the messages tool, as some of you already have done that. When you do the message tool, you can also click on the include email portion to make sure I really get the message with the email notification. So use the message tool, which is located right over here on this Blackboard portal. Okay, so please remember that. If you click there, you can see all the messages you can send me. All right. Now, looking at our class again, got to do the student view. This is our course outline and critical path. Okay. The course outline is a pretty formal way of introducing each course and class for each academic year. You know, the biggest takeaway here is the breakdown of the assessments. You are going to have two major projects. Picture them as your exams. Okay, you're going to have an exam halfway through the semester, an exam at the end of the semester. Well, instead of exams, you're going to get projects in this class because it is a hands-on, creative, digital application type of classroom. So to give you like a quiz, it'll be really kind of like not not too well related to the subject as let's say math and other subjects are easier to quiz you on. Whereas creative applications like these, it's much better if you exploit these skills with a project-based type of scenario. This is why we do this in almost every creative curriculum and course that I've taught and I've partaked in does the same thing. So two main projects, and also you're also going to get some in-lab class exercises. So those will be spread out throughout the semester. And to better give you a breakdown of all this, the two main projects and the assignments that you're going to be getting is through my critical path. Every class should have a critical path. And this one in particular gives you all the weeks here projected on the left, the topics we're going to cover in the middle, and all the project and assignments are on the right. I made sure I balanced and I spread out all my assignments and exercises throughout the week. So every time you have something due and you have a good amount of time for that to be executed. All in all, the way this is broken down is we go 7 weeks straight, covering the digital drawing portion of the course. Then we have a reading week in between, week 8. And then we come back for the remainder of the 7 weeks, which will commence the digital imaging portion, which is Photoshop, and that'll wrap up the semester. So 15 weeks total. We're looking at April, May time when the weather is going to be nice and warm. It's going to be springtime, and that's when your semester one will finish, and you're going to have the second semester during the summer course. Okay. So this is how it's broken up. I'm not going to read you this whole thing, but just it's a good way to kind of see where we're at every class. So here you have exercise one I'm going to assign to you today. With that, I'm going to give you a project next week, and then you're going to hand in the exercise one in week 3. Now, I know this is already kind of week 1, week 2. We're meshing it up with the overlap. So I will make sure you have enough time to get these done. So don't panic if you see something due, let's say tomorrow or the next day. It's because we haven't moved it to the right date. Okay, so this is how it's set up, and this is your critical path. Now, this is the module here. The module gives you all the different material throughout the course. So we have here the Illustrator assignments. Okay, so we have the Wordmark logo assignments. I talked about this a lot on Wednesday. So if you're absent that day, I will quickly do an explanation of what exactly is it that is required of you to complete this first assignment. And the module is the first one is called Class 1 Introduction. And I put this Creative Cloud application info. I must apologize because I wasn't informed about the recent cancellation of this service. Because what happened here was we had a lot of problems with this link. So when students got this link, they were able to download this, but there are a lot of problems accessing the software. Although the deal looks good, and I really like the deal for what you're getting, it's not worth the headache of going through all this third-party software that Humber had before. So it's no longer available to purchase, and it's accessible using the computer labs. Now, we do have a special link for you because you're Humber students. Not only you get the real Creative Cloud software, you're not going to have any problems going forward. So the good news is it's still at a greater discount. So if you click on this link, or just go to Creative Cloud, instead of paying $78 a month, you're going to only pay $26 a month for this plan, which is 67% of savings. They still carried on the Boxing Day special discount for you. Now, the only thing to remember is also when you log in here is to log in with your Humber credentials. So, you know, like the N number that you have, N whatever the number is at Humber dot, you know, .ca or whatever, you have to use that one to log in. You can't do it otherwise because it won't recognize you're a student. Only students and teachers get this offer. Now, I did the math. I know the other deal was better, but honestly, $26 a month is less than a gym membership or anything else you probably have your expenses. And considering you're not really spending much money in school, like other courses would cost you textbooks, other materials, equipment, you know, who knows what else, other, you know, college universities, you have to spend some extra money on resources. All we ask you to do is to buy this subscription here for $26 and you have access to all this beautiful software. Okay. So it's a pretty good deal and you need to get it. Okay. Because you're going to use Photoshop, Illustrator, and I think there's also Adobe XD in there. If it's discontinued, that's okay. But these are the programs you can only get it for like, you should only get it for like 3-4 months. You don't have to get it for the whole year, okay? But honestly, if you get a deal for the whole year, you can have it throughout because you're going to use these programs anyways, okay? The Adobe programs are very useful throughout many industries. So this is what I need you to access and consider getting for this class, okay? That's the only investment you're making, the 20 plus tax. Let's say it's $30 for the first 3 months or 4 months. All right, now moving along, once you get the software, you should download Adobe Illustrator, and this is how we're going to start this semester. After we're done with the Illustrator, we're going to move on to Adobe Photoshop. Keep in mind, these are the most powerful programs in the planet. I don't care which part of the world, you know, you're in or you come from, you will know that these two programs are well recognized throughout the entire world. Illustrator is for digital drawing, and Photoshop is for digital imaging. Both of these programs combined will make you a very strong candidate into the design world. And I know, you know, you're into web design and development, but developing a website without the design, it's not really going to do much to you. So by implementing the design with the development, makes you that much stronger of a candidate for this industry. Okay. Now let's go ahead and look at the application. So I should like, I mean, I'll leave this here for now, but I do apologize. This deal doesn't work anymore. And I'm kind of glad because students got it and it wasn't working and they had to log in with another email and we had some problems with it, to be honest with you. I guess it was too good to be true. Um, so I'm going to release the other class now, class 2 and class 1 combined, because I do want to get you introduced to the software. Let me ask how many of you do have the software already? You can just raise your hand if you have the software. Okay, so we have Yasemin and you have Gurjab and Carla. Very good. And the rest of you don't have it yet? Ravi, Richmond, Manisha, and Oluwada. Okay, so please get it.
Not
So, huh?
Yeah, I have it. I've gotten the software.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, if you can get it by this week, it'll be great. Because Wednesday, when I see you in person, I'm gonna do some, you know, a continuation of the exercise. It's nice if all of you get it by Wednesday. Okay, so please do that, and this way we can continue with with um, with the course and everything else. All right. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead now and switch my camera over to my desktop. And those of you that do have Adobe Illustrator, you can open it with me. And we can start the session now and we'll go over some of the important tools of the program. Can you still see my screen, everybody? Because when I switch
yes,
my
we can.
perfect, because when I switch my desktop, sometimes I find it does interrupt with my preview. So because you can see my screen, that's good. I'm going to open, this is Photoshop here. Open Illustrator. This is Adobe Illustrator 2025. It's the latest version. Like I said, it's the most powerful digital drawing program on the planet. I'm going to start by opening up a new file. Okay. And what that will do is give me various topics to choose from. I can create a mobile design or like a mobile prototype of an app or any type of design that I want to conduct within the mobile app industry. Then I have the web tab as well to create various websites, different sizes. You have large, minimum, medium size, and so on and so forth. You also have tablets like MacBook Pros and other type of settings or screens. You do have the print setting. So it's not just web, but it's also print, large format, small format. You want to do business cards, letterheads, you can do all that stuff in here as well. Branding is another category, as we're going to embark on the branding journey at the beginning by creating a logo. So that's your first assignment. We're going to create a logo, which will be used for the website or any other type of use of the logo for a client or a company alike. Social media, as you know, is a big, powerful industry and entails you to create some graphics and some social media posts and stuff. You can do it all here. Art and illustration, just to have some freedom to design pretty much anything your heart desires. Film and video, so you can do some rolling credits for the video. Movies, you can do superimposition of objects and elements and create that type of setting for the video, like overlays or image overlays. They also have some templates as well, which I haven't really looked at. They try to get you in for free and then they charge you money for these templates. So I wouldn't even suggest you use that option. All right, so there's your main topics. As you can see, from web to print to mobile, it's got everything covered. We're going to start with a web option here. Okay. And we're going to create a web, just a web standard one. I'm going to click on the middle option here, which is 1280 by 1024 pixels. Okay, so we're going to start with this one and we're going to do just a basic exercise, a warm-up exercise to start with to get you acquainted with the tools. Now, if you don't even if you don't have Illustrator at this point, if you're watching this video, or if you're following me along, you can definitely try these methods when you do get the software. Okay, so just make sure you do that as soon as you're able to. And you can also, once you pick the designated, I guess, document size, you can still adjust it here on the right tab size. So on the right tab here, you can control the size, the units, in this case, using pixels, the orientation, the number of artboards. You can do what's called a bleed, which is an important aspect of printing. We're not printing this yet, so we don't have to do any type of bleed consideration. We're just going to stick with just a normal document width and height. Let's say we're making a web page or something, or a prototype for a web page. That'll do just fine. Okay, so let's just pick something and click the create button. Mind you, by the way, this is RGB color mode. There's also CMYK. CMYK is for printing, RGB is for on-screen mode. So we're going to stay with on-screen mode. And the resolution is going to be screen, which is a screen resolution at 72 dpi. Let's hit the create button, and here we go. It's also nice if you can invest in a second screen, maybe like a tablet or a second monitor. So what you can do is share the screen for me, demonstrating my techniques on one while you're following me on the other. Or you can just do a split screen if you want. Like you can kind of move, this window around back and forth, make one smaller, make one bigger, or just sit tight, watch the recording. And when I upload our YouTube channel later, which I'm working on still by the end of the week, these videos that take a while to process. YouTube has to filter them and then I have to upload them on the platform. That's the best way to share videos. Otherwise, they're too big for you to download and to share with you guys. So just using YouTube as a platform for personal educational use is what I decided to do like a year and a half ago. And it's been working really well ever since. So just be patient because to like not much edit the video, but to compress it, upload it, filter it, and that kind of stuff takes me a bit of time too. All right. So let's go ahead and start with the exercise. I like to kind of keep a head count of who's following me right now and who's participating and who's watching. So give me a quick yay or nay. Who's doing this with me right now live? Okay, so we got Yasemin and Gurjap and Oluwadamia and Richmond and Manisha. Okay, so most of you are doing it. I know Carla also raised her hand that she has the software, but that's good if you just want to watch for now. And Ravi's on his way of getting it. Perfect. Very good, everyone. Thanks for chiming in. Excellent. So here we go. What we're going to do first is set up your interface. I'm a strong believer of having a more comfortable working environment. Just like anything else, it's hard to work with something when you're not comfortable. So let's get comfortable. Under the window menu, what I'd like you to do is set up the workspace to an Essentials Classic workspace. So if you click on that, I'm going to reset mine because it's already kind of modified. You should get something that looks like this. Okay. And better yet, the tools on the left side here, these are called your drawing tools. If you click on the top little left corner where the arrows are, you can collapse this to one column or two columns. I much more prefer the two columns as it's easier to explain and to visualize all the aspects of the tools. So please make sure you set this up to two columns if it's easier for you to recognize it. We don't need to maximize the screen. Here's the main menus, of course. Here's your main properties. And here's your palettes for additional properties. So anything you select or do, you have to pretty much um, reflect on what's happening up here on the properties or the palettes to make the adjustments. Let's start off something with really simple. We have two main selection tools. We have the two arrows. One is like a dark grayish color. One is like a light grayish color. The dark one is the main one, okay? So this is like your main selection tool. So make sure habitually you want to make sure you're always kind of clicking on that tool there. The shortcut is V. So if you press V on the shortcut, you will select the tool. There's little mini tutorials in the program. So as soon as you roll over a tool, it'll give you exactly an idea of what it does. One's called the direct selection tool. One's called the selection tool. This is the magic wand. This is like a Photoshop tool, but they brought it into Illustrator just to select multiple shapes. But you can do that with Shift and other ways. And this is your lasso tool. So the most important aspects of the program is selection because it's an object-oriented program. You see, Photoshop and Illustrator look similar, but they're completely quite the opposite of tools. And if you're not aware of how to use them, you can mistakenly easily confuse one for the other, or even do the wrong project in the wrong program. Like for example, when I teach this, I always meet students that know Photoshop, and a lot of them tell me they do their business cards in Photoshop. But any professional will tell you that a business card should only be done in Illustrator, right? Because it is more like a vector program and, a page layout application. Now, you can do it in either or, there's no right or wrong. It just far as editability, um, for modification purposes, pre-press setup, production, Illustrator is far more superior than Photoshop when it comes to certain projects. Let's start off with a simple shape. For that, I'm going to click on this rectangle here. This is like the rectangle tool or the shape tool. Okay. So I'm going to skip a few tools here because if I go in order, I'm really going to put you guys to sleep. So I'm going to keep this interesting by covering the more important aspects of the program first. These are your drawing tools. So the rectangle tool basically draws rectangles. So if you keep clicking and drawing with this tool, you're just going to keep creating a bunch of rectangles, right? Eventually, once you draw a few rectangles, you want to be able to go to that gray arrow tool, the main selection tool, and you want to click on these rectangles and reposition them, right? So you can move one here, move one there, and so on and so forth. You can also resize the rectangles, right? You can color the rectangles. Like right now, by default, it's white fill and a black stroke. So I can easily go up here and change the color to like orange. Click on this one and change the color to like blue. And this one's gonna be like yellow. Okay, so go ahead and do a few things like I'm doing right now so you can get comfortable with this whole process, right? This is how you can basically control your drawing environment. Very simple. This is an object-oriented program. So basically it relies on you clicking, dragging, resizing, repositioning your objects. Now with that comes order. Order means if I have this shape in front of this shape, I can easily right click and basically send this to the back. So if you go to arrange, send to back right here, basically you're sending this shape behind the other shape. Same thing, you can click on this one or that one, bring it to the front or send it to the back, whichever way you see fit. Okay, so that's how object-oriented programs work. Let's say I want to bring this one to the back. I just simply right click, arrange. So remember these little shortcuts, very important when it comes to maneuvering objects. You can also delete objects, of course, okay, just by pressing delete. I'm going to make an additional object here. I'm going to go to the ellipse tool, hold shift, and draw a circle. If I don't hold shift, it's going to look like a elliptical, like an egg shape. But if I do hold shift, it's going to be a perfect circle. And for that, I'm going to be able to give it a different color as well. So here I have two objects again, and one is in front of the other. Notice how the more recent one that I generated, it always comes up at the forefront. The previous one ends up in the back. So what happens is when you have multiple shapes like this, you can select both of them together by simply grabbing a selection marquee like this. You can also click on one shape and shift click on the other shape to select both. You can also, once you select both of them, you can right click and you can group them. Grouping object is a very strategic way to keep things together in Illustrator, as what happens later is when you click on one, they both get selected automatically because they're grouped. You can also have the option then to resize them and do all kinds of different cool things with it. So grouping objects, arranging objects, creating objects is something very important that you learn how to do in Illustrator. So I hope this gives you like a quick little kind of warm up on understanding the software tools and capabilities. And just to point out something really important, this is a vector software. What makes this very special is the fact that everything you make here is vector. There's no pixelization whatsoever. I can zoom in 1,000%. You're not going to see anything. Whereas if you make this in a different software, you are going to see pixels because that's what images do. They do pixels. Another quick way to kind of demonstrate this is to show you vector versus bitmap. Just Google it for now. Right? I've used this website sticker you before. Really? All right. You can probably see this diagram here. This is vector. This is bitmap. So when you work with images and other kind of things, you can see the actual bitmap on the edges. If I was to recreate this design in Photoshop, let's say, it will be also bitmapped. But because I did it in Illustrator, I had no issue but to keep it nice and vector. Richmond, do you have a question? Sorry, I noticed your hand up.
No, I don't have a question. I think I accidentally tapped the raise button.
No worries. I'm just paying attention. Thanks. All right. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a vector program, and this is how vector files are generated be creating objects, right? Now, obviously, there's more to this, but it's a good way for you to get the fundamentals right This is a perfect way to get started by utilizing these drawing tools. Okay. Um, Now, what I'm going to do next is take this to the next level by showing you how to generate some additional, vector components with shapes in return to create this logo exercise that's due. I think I'm going to give you maybe like 2 weeks for this one. Okay. So if I scroll down, this is your Wordmark logo assignment. So I think we changed it from Smiles and More. This was a client that we had last semester. It was a dental logo with another one called Drench It. You can pick your own design. This is just examples, but just to kind of read it out to you quickly. So for this very first assignment, you will be designing a Wordmark logo. The logo can be any type of business you want to target and utilize it to create a brand statement. Smiles and More dental logo is a good example and a real opportunity to use as a theme for this assignment. Drench It is another example. If there's a website called drenched.ca. Again, I'm just making, you know, themes for you, but you can create your own. There's obviously a lot to consider when branding a logo for a business, so you can focus primarily on the digital design creation to such a to reach such a vector result. Good luck and have fun, as my former teacher would always say that to me. A type to create outlines is the main key, which I'm going to demonstrate and teach you that here. This is the assignment details. So we're going to present this thing on a business card. Nothing better than a business card, because believe it or not, people still use business cards, although it's a printed piece. We're going to make it 3.5 by 2 inches, artboard size, and that's a business card size. We're going to put more than two colors. Okay. I think two is enough. Okay. So two or more if you want. You don't have to use more than two. Up to two different fonts. You don't want to mix too many fonts on a logo. And the AI format is to be submitted as the final, as well as an SVG for the web. A lot of websites now have SVG formats, means they're scalable. As we advance further into the mobile industry, a lot of websites are responsive because most people like use their cell phones instead of their computers now to surf the internet. So that's why with SVG formats, you can scale the logos to any size you like, and for print, versions as well, they use EPS. So Illustrator to SVG is what we're going to do when it comes to the production of this logo. Okay, so this is your assignment and content instructions. I will change what's the 22nd, so you do have some time for this, like probably next Wednesday. And Wednesday, when I see you in person, I'm going to do another variation of this together with you, so you'll get a good understanding on how to approach this. All right. So any logo you want to do, and that's pretty much that. For the main projects, you do have the application splash banner, but I don't want to overwhelm you and talk about that just yet. I know I brought it up last Wednesday, so I'm going to leave that till next time as well. Right. So because we have the Wordmark logo assignment due, and I did show you some examples of Wordmark logos. I'm going to show you some other ones there that are very popular in the in the world stage. Like Google, of course, it's the Wordmark logo. Look how simple Google is. A bunch of, 4 or 5 colors with a font, and look how it's the biggest corporation in the world. So from Google to Amazon to L'Oreal, Coca-Cola, FedEx, they all have a Wordmark design, right? And this is your opportunity to make your own Wordmark design. And not just Wordmark, you can involve even some of the elements that go with it. Okay. We also brought up some subliminal messages, which is kind of cool, right? One of it was, remember the 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins? There's 31 flavors for Baskin Robbins, right? Um, there's one with the NBC has the little peacock, the multiple colors. The peacock is right there, like a little bird. Coca-Cola, this is more like some kind of, conspiracy stuff, of course. The FedEx logo has the arrow moving forward with the speed of business. That's a very popular one as well. The Toblerone has the bear in the mountain for Baron, okay, for Swedish. and all kinds of cool things with logos. So have some fun with this. And if you want to explore some subliminal things you can do with your logo, sure. Amazon, anything you want from A to Z, right? So they'll have a strong message. And of course, the Tostitos people dipping the chip in the bowl. So have some fun, mix some graphics and objects with your typography to, design a logo of your choice. Okay. So now let's see some of the skills that we can implement to make a logo of our own here in Illustrator, right? So first I'm gonna maybe ungroup these, okay, because I'm done with the grouping here. Now another way to access the group is if you double click. Notice how this big gray bar showed up. That's because I'm inside isolation mode. It's like going inside the group without ungrouping it. If you press escape, you exit that grouping feature. Okay. So make sure you double click by intent. If you do it by accident, then you can't really exit back and forth. So another way to ungroup your objects is to right click, ungroup, then you can separate them. That means I can get rid of this and keep this one here and do something with that as well. All right. Um, Can you make some other shapes? Sure, it doesn't have to be circles and squares. I mean, you can do polygons. There's the polygon tool. And this one, you can just draw a hexagon by default. But once you click on the hexagon, the new tool here now, there's a new tool. Well, this one rounds it. So there's like more like rounded, like for icons and little things you can do that. This is an added feature here. Another way to draw this hexagon is if you go up and down on the arrow keys, you can control, as I'm drawing it, I'm pressing up or down to control the number of sides I can put on this rectangle or hexagon. If you just go click once, you're presented a palette which demonstrates how many sides you're getting. And you can just type, let's say, I don't know, 8. I want an octagon. Press OK, and now I have 8 sides. And going forward, it'll remember that setting. So all you're doing is a bunch of um, stop signs. Right, I said stop signs. It's like a stop sign. Right. So let's make a stop sign actually, because that's just kind of thought of that. So I'm going to go ahead and create this hexagon to be, sorry, octagon to begin with. I'm going to go ahead and increase the stroke weight. I know it's black, so I'm going to just increase it to, the weight is 1.2. So if I go up, make it really, 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 really heavy, maybe I'll go to like maybe perhaps 40 points, maybe 20 to make it nice and thick so you can see the actual stop sign. Stand out a little more. This is how you can add strokes and fills on an object. Basically, you can go from here. This is the outline. This is the fill attribute of the object. Of course, if you grab the edges, you can resize it. Be careful because when you do this, you want to hold shift to keep the proportions. And yes, you can resize it um, what was I going to say, with infinitely because it won't destroy any quality. Basically, it's non-destructive. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, so infinite type of scaling because it's vector with no compromise. All right. Now I'm going to add some typography in there. So to do that, let me make this a little thicker first. I'm going to do 35. There we go. Right. I can even position where the stroke is. So if I don't like it here, I can go ahead and open up the stroke. See, there's a stroke panel here. And I can go to show options. And I can then say align it from the outside or the center, inside, outside. I can pick different locations if you really want to get down to the whole nitty gritty or, you know, get all very technical with the positioning, you can do that. Pretty much anything you can think of, Illustrator can do. Now, I don't want to get too technical in the first demonstration here, but I do want to show you, especially those of you that are already kind of maybe played around with Illustrator before, I wanted to show you some parts of the software as well. All right, so technically you can access more areas here. Of course, the top property is the main one that we're using, colors and strokes. The stroke amount is here. Opacity is basically how transparent this is. I strongly suggest you don't play with this yet. I hardly use opacity in Illustrator. It's just the thing. You don't want to do that. Okay. And this is your alignment parts. Okay. So you can go align. This is to the page. The alignment works better with objects. So pretty much whatever you select is what this relays on the top. All right, select, deselect. If you notice, I'm doing this quite a bit. Click or click away to basically click on something else. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the type tool. The T, wherever you see it, is universally, whether it's Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, it selects the type tool. And the type tool, basically, if you click anywhere, if you just, again, click and type, I'm going to use all capital letters to type the text. Now it's so small that you have to press Command plus to zoom in, right? Notice how this changes now because I'm selecting the text. It gives me text options. So I'm going to select things like Arial, Arial bold. I'm going to increase the point size to like a very big 72 points. Alternatively, I like to also do the selection tool, just hold shift and resize it this way. So instead of going through the technical stuff of how big you want the font to be, you can just go ahead here and just grab this, remember the darker gray arrow tool, and just simply resize it accordingly and then put it in here. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and make this look more realistic. So I'm going to double click. See, double click highlights the text inside. You can also select it with the arrow tool. Doesn't matter which way, it's still selected. The difference is this is selected as an object, whereas if you double click, it highlights it as the text within the object. Then you can change like things like fonts and other typographical features as well. I'm going to show you my master shortcut here, Command Shift left square bracket to control what's called the tracking. The tracking controls the space between the letters. That's why people, professionals, love using Illustrator, because you can control every aspect of typography. Forget being fancy. I'm doing this right here, everybody. Look at my cursor. This is minus 60. Okay. This is 0. Minus means in, plus means out. So you can spread the words out or you can bring the words in. Anything that's minus, you're contracting the um, the tracking. Okay. And if you roll over, you can kind of see what this is tracking, leading, kerning, and point size. I'll go back to my selection tool, select this together. Better yet, I'll select this and this with shift and use the align tool and just hit center to center it together. Because if it's left, it's going to go left, center, right, here's center, here's vertical center. Perfect. Maybe I'll move it down a bit. Okay. I can then change the color of this to white. This will be the stop sign. Okay. Right. Um, yeah, so basically you can do lots of cool things with Illustrator. As far as the logos are concerned, I mean, let's say we want to make a stop sign logo. Maybe I'll take out the outline. No stroke. How do you create no outline? I don't want an outline at all. So this black, I hope you're not going to think it's like make it white because the pages, the background is white. No, white is white. None is this little thing here without it's got a red line going across. I don't know if you can see it. Okay. But if you do that, then this becomes none. It's like a see-through thing. So I made the fill none, which means no fill means it's a see-through ring. Let me just change the color of it to red to see what I'm saying here. And this is also perhaps red. So what I made here was like an icon of a transparent type of object here. Okay. So that's what I made. So that's how you make transparent things. Okay. And maybe this I'm gonna make a logo out of it by simply creating something more interesting. I'm gonna zoom in here. So right now this is text, okay? This is text. And pretty much what text does is display characters, as you know. I'm going to hold shift and make it a little bigger here, right? Just going to have it touch the edges a bit. And what I'm going to do is just to show you how you can modify text in Illustrator like no other program. So I'm purposely having this connected the way I do right now. To edit text like no other program, what you have to do is convert the type into outlines. Sorry, can you guys see my screen okay? Yes, it's sharing. Okay, I can see here. So what I'm going to do is go to type, create outlines. Creating outlines enables me to convert text into objects. So right now you can't change the font anymore or the style, but what I can do is edit my text. So when you convert objects, it looks like this now. I'm just pressing Control Y. Uh, this creates a preview or an outline of my work so I can see where my vector status is. I just like to press Control or Command Y. Please use that shortcut because it's very, very handy. What I'm going to do now is implement, instead of this dark gray tool, I'm going to change it over to this lighter gray tool. Okay. So this light gray tool, what it does, it's called a direct selection tool. If you hover over it long enough, it'll give you an example how it's used. What you do with that tool is then you can grab the bottom of this letter T and you can stretch it all the way down here like that. And I can grab this letter P and do the same thing. Now, if you hold shift, it'll keep it straight, so you don't have to compromise it moving anywhere. Okay? So I can do things like this. I can even do something like that. I mean, whatever. I don't know what I'm doing here, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to, do some kind of design. We can definitely distort and modify the shapes accordingly. Okay. I'm going to press Command Z is going back. Command Z, Command Z. And perhaps I didn't really do a good job doing that. I'm just going to try something else here. I'm going to rotate this. Something like that instead. And then I can perhaps grab, again, this tool. Let's see, I can just grab this and extend this over. That, maybe like that. Maybe we're advocating for something. Who knows, right? Right. So you can try different things with this tool. If I want to move this up further, I guess I'm gonna have to, maybe I can grab the whole thing. Watch this now. I'm gonna double click and then move this up further like that. Let go, press escape. So double click let me select these individually because they're in a group already. Escape escapes it. You can also right click and ungroup it and regroup it. It's up to you how you do it. Let's go back to this direct selection tool and try something creatively like this. Whoops. Because I grabbed this point, it did that. To grab both of them together, you can hold shift and do it this way, or do what I did, just simply grab it that way to begin with. If you just grab it in the middle, it'll do exactly that. Right. All right, you get the idea, right? Then you also have this tool too, the group selection tool. I like this one a lot because it lets you select the objects within the group, okay, as opposed to just kind of messing around with all these different tool options. Okay. And you can see here, you can basically take any type of design and have a lot of fun with it and transform it into something that, you might consider creating a logo. I'm going to group this for a second now and just show you what it looks like, right? So it looks like a stamp or a seal or some kind of a logo, right? And that could be kind of one variation of what we're trying to do. Now, I want to show you some additional transformative advanced tactics. You'll see some other things you can do with this nice logo design. So let me do one more demonstration with this next example. And for this one, we'll just take the two circles. I'm going to hold shift, create one circle, right? Now, instead of making another circle and try to match that to be the same size, wouldn't it be easier if I was to take this circle, hold Option, or Alt on your keyboard if you have a PC or Mac. So Option drag creates a copy of the same things. Look, I can keep Option dragging to create multiples, as many as I like. Two is all I need. So I'm gonna, by the way, I was pressing Control Z, Control Z, edit, redo, undo, right? That's how I go back and forth. I'm gonna overlap these two. This one, I'll change the color of it to orange. Okay. I'm gonna bring this one across that one here. I'm gonna align them perfectly like this. Okay. So I'm gonna go to the align panel here, align them all in the middle. I'm gonna select both of them and show you some interesting configurations, what I can do. Besides doing stuff like this, I mean, which is still good, you can also do some more advanced stuff with this logo. Okay. I don't know if you remember what this looks like. I think you're all familiar with it. It's the infamous MasterCard logo. The MasterCard logo looks like this. So it does have the in between with the different color. Now, how would we do something like that? We do have the red and the orange, but how do we get this to look like it's nicely mixed? Well, we're definitely in the right program. What we have to do is select both of them and go what's called the Pathfinder. Pathfinder is how you can interact with objects in Adobe Illustrator. It is the most preferred method. Most designers love using the Pathfinder feature. Look, there's a lot of things here, but if I was to show you every little thing in the program, not only we're going to waste a lot of time, we're not going to get that much done because some of it is miscellaneous. I'm only going to show you the good stuff. The other stuff is okay, but it's really, really minimal in terms of what they can do. So when I show you these things are the important things. So when I go to, let's say, Pathfinder, that's because the Pathfinder is very, very important and powerful. And you can see a lot of them have shortcuts affiliated to them. So Pathfinder's here, and there's the palette. What the Pathfinder lets us do is lets us either unite the two. If I click this, now they become one. See, they become one object. I press Control Y to show you. Before they weren't united, they're just overlapping, right? But as soon as I unite them, they become one, which is pretty cool. Or, important in terms of what you want to do with it. The other option is this one here. It's called minus front. Which one's at the front? The orange. Well, that subtracts the red. So you're going to get the Apple logo or something like that if you want to construct it properly. So you get your intersections and cutouts using this method. So for logo, this gives you a lot of options. The other one here does intersect, which is pretty much leaves whatever the intersection point is, leaves that by itself. And the last one does the opposite. It kind of excludes it. Right. So all these are great. And the bottom ones are miscellaneous. But the only one I like out of the bottom one is this one here. It's called divide. What this will do is divide every object that's there and in overlapping into separate segments. So I'm going to click on this. And this did exactly what I wanted to do. But it's still grouped, right? So what you have to do is either right click, ungroup it, or use the group selection tool to select the middle piece. Whichever way you want to do it doesn't matter. I'd rather cycle through the tools here and show you both. So I'm going to go to the group selection tool or the direct selection tool. Either one works as long as you click in the middle to select this part, right? Because that's what divide did. And then this part now becomes the orange that I wanted it to be. And ladies and gentlemen, there's our MasterCard logo. So just by me taking this thing apart, and if I ungroup it, I can show you basically what this did, right? Command Z, Command Z, right? So you can kind of do pretty much almost anything, simple or complicated, using these logo techniques, all right? Let's just do one more really quick one, and then we're gonna slowly wrap it up, and I'll let you guys kind of try this thing out and do your own exercises with the logos before we get the project down pat. Any questions first? Let me just pause for a second and ask if you guys have any questions. Going back and forth here. Whoops.
Hi,
Oh,
Milorad.
hey, how's it going, Richmond?
Yeah, yeah. I have a quick question. Could you please demonstrate how you extended the line to the text?
Absolutely.
After
Mhm.
yeah, after creating outlines.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you that one more time. I know exactly what your question is, Richmond. Thanks for asking.
Sure.
Let me go ahead and demonstrate that right now, okay? So what Richmond asked me to do was basically how did I extend the T or the letter? Let me do a simpler one. I'm going to click here and create a different letter. I'm going to create the letter X, right? Here's the letter X. X is good because it's got different sides and points I can work with, right? So in order for me to do this transformative type of demonstration, I have to, because look, if you look at the difference, see, these are no longer letters, they're objects. That's why they look outlined. X is still considered a character because I can still highlight X and change the font. See what I mean? I can't change the font in this anymore because I crossed the line. I converted it into object. So therefore, you have to ask yourself, when are you or are you willing to convert this to an object for the right reason? Not don't just do it because you want to. Do it because you want to do something with this. So if I want to edit it like that, I should go to type and create outlines. Only then I can do those editing extensions with the white arrow tool. So create outlines, then I have this. Then I can use this white arrow tool, the direct selection tool, not the plus one, that's for group selecting. This one here, and I can then grab these little points and basically alter them or move them any way I like. See, like that.
Okay.
And I can even grab the edges, right? I can do lots of interesting things by me simply using this direct selection tool method, right? Make sense? Here, I'm going to
Uh,
utilize this in a different. So I'm going to have this X here, and I will also create a maybe a polygon shape. No, I used that one already. A rounded rectangle, sure. So here I have a rectangle. Now watch this. I'm going to round the corners like that. I'm going to make this yellow. I'm going to send this to the back so I can see the X, what it looks like. Right click, arrange, send to back, right? And there it is, right? There's the X. This might be some kind of logo. Who knows? Well, in order for us to execute this, I'm going to move this over like that. And then maybe change this color to blue. Okay. And what I'll do is I'm gonna grab these because this is in front of that one, right? Can you mute your microphone, Richmond, please? Thank you. So what I'm gonna do now is basically select these two objects and do a similar approach that I did with the MasterCard. The only difference is I might try this one, which is minus fronts. And what that did was put a hole through this object, so it looks like a logo, like kind of like a Facebook design, but not really. This is like, I guess, X and Facebook together. They merge forces. All right. So there's kind of how you can do something really cool with this, together with using objects and shapes. Well, then of course you can add, letters and stuff. Like I can create another, object here, merge these two. So I'm gonna shift select these, unite. So now I have something that looks like that, right? Looks like a key, right? And maybe I can then click here again. Now remember when you use the type tool, do not draw a text box, because if you do that, it'll create a, let me just make this type smaller. If you draw a text box, everyone, you're creating like text. Like if you're doing like a paragraph, if you're doing like a design, or if you're creating some kind of a document, right? So don't do that. If you're making logos, you don't draw a text box. You just click once and you type. Okay. Factor. Go with the selection tool, make it bigger, a lot bigger. bold italic. I'll put it right over here. Again, I'm going to create outlines. Then guess what I'll do? I'm going to select both of these and do minus fronts. Oh, that really messed it up. I think I think I have too many. I could. It's better to keep it simple. Like don't do one on top of the other kind of thing, unless you do a compound path. But my idea was to do something like this, right? Just to do some kind of a logo design. And again, you don't have to always create outlines if you don't want to, but it's nice to get that extra touch if you're doing a logo, just to kind of signify that way. All right, so there's many things you can do as long as you know how to create outlines, integrate shapes, create outlines. Definitely Pathfinder is the key here to making this work, okay? So this is how we're going to be creating logos in Illustrator, and I got some other exercises I'm going to demonstrate for you going forward. Right now, I want you to practice this very simple technique. Try like utilizing shapes, circles, objects. Everything I demonstrated in this video is very important for you to practice at least for an hour or half an hour. And then later, when I see you the next class, not only be more comfortable using the software, but we're going to learn more stuff as we go along. And then you can kind of get this logo assignment done and hand it in. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to have to create that YouTube channel for us and upload the video. So that takes me a little time. While I do that, I want you to practice and work on this assignment. Maybe just practice for now before you do the assignment so we can get things going forward. All right. Any questions? All right. I'm going to
Sorry,
stop. Go ahead.
I just wanted to you to show again how to group shapes because I can
Oh,
do it in my computer.
no problem. Absolutely. Here, I'm going to show you one more time. Let me share the screen. So to group a shape, Carla, what you want to do is group this here. I'm gonna right click. So this is not grouped right here. See, this is separate. Oh, look, this was separate. This is separate. I want to move this together. I don't want to move this accidentally without that. So to do that, I gotta select this and this, or whatever as many shapes as you want. Once you shift select, or maybe do this, make a group select like that. Just surround everything, then right click and group it. Once you group it, you can then move it together any other time. Just have to be careful on what you click and how you select. Now I'll do one more thing. I'm going to click on this little corner here, and I'm going to round the edges. You see that? You have the round option. You can do that as well. That'll make it more conclusive.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm going to save this as an exercise as well. So when you save this, whatever you're doing in Illustrator, I'm going to call this logo basics. Okay. I'm going to save it onto my desktop. I always save the Illustrator format. Illustrator doesn't have many formats to save. Has Illustrator has an EPS format, which is good for machine language when they do embroidery and large format printing. You can do a PDF and an SVG, which is great for websites and logos. So really good production formats, world's best recognized, right? The other ones is when you do want to do JPEGs, PNGs, and all the other web formats, that's when you do export. So for now, we're just going to do save Illustrator AI. I'm going to go ahead to save button, and that'll be our exercise that we did for today. Any other questions, please let me know. Otherwise, again, you can watch this video because everything that I did is being recorded, and I'm going to work on that YouTube channel. So it's going to be uploaded by this week. Alrighty, so let me just do my conclusion and I'll come back and answer more questions if you have any. Again, nice meeting all of you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now. Have a nice evening.